I have a confession to make. I thought that might get your attention, eh? I have a confession to make. I am a professional musician. That's right, you heard me correctly. I am a professional musician. Since the age of 15, I've held positions as church organist, choir director, and throughout my 4 years of undergraduate study in music, I was a member of the National Cathedral Choir of Men and Boys. Then I went to Chicago for grad school in musicology and served both part-time and full-time church ministry positions there. And currently I'm professor of music at Olivet College, where I've been now for going on 20 years. I am a professional musician. The one thing I discovered early on is that music was in my DNA. It's part of who I am. I no doubt got it from my mom, who was a trained musician, and though dementia has taken almost all of her memory, she still remembers the alto part of every piece she has ever sung, whether it's a hymn from the hymnal or a chorus and a couple of the solos from Handel's Messiah. I think about music, I listen to music, I just don't put it on in the background for noise. I actually listen to it. I read about music. As a musicologist, I research music and have had the good fortune to present my research in the US and Europe. I've had articles and books published on music. I've even had a few choral and organ pieces published. And as you might expect, I married a musician whom I met in grad school. Some might have said, I'm obsessed with music. It's always been who I am. I am a musician. Perhaps you too have a passion that consumes you. Maybe it's your career, your role in your family, something that you have spent most of your life doing, or maybe you've just found it. Something has called you and something now possesses you. It's your obsession. What about our life as a follower of Jesus? Does this consume us? Is this a passion for us? Or do we give it only a couple hours once a week on a Sunday, and maybe not even every Sunday? Maybe we take the summer off because, well, the kids are out of school, the weather's beautiful, the church probably doesn't have air conditioning. We have a cottage up north, we want to get away. We'll be back in the fall. Mother Ann will understand. Where is our obsession with Jesus and the way of the gospel? I would suggest it's in our DNA. As Scottish theologian J. Philip Newell suggests, when we're born, we come freshly from God, and we're connected to the heartbeat of God. We spend our lives listening to that heartbeat, being connected to God, so that eventually we return to that source. You see, it's in our DNA. But I'll tell you, it's not easy. The noise of the world blocks out that heartbeat. It obscures our ability to hear that heartbeat. Maybe it's akin to being a musician. Lots of time spent in a practice room all by yourself. Lots of quiet time spent studying in the library. Not a very good way to meet people and make friends. Practicing something over and over and over again until you get it just right. Being a follower of Jesus is tough too, isn't it? As the former Archbishop of Canterbury, Rowan Williams, reminds us, discipleship is a state of being. It's about how we live. Last week in the gospel, we heard that if we wanted to be followers of Jesus, then we must take up our cross and follow him. We have to lose our life in order to find it. Today, Jesus tells us that if anything gets in our way from doing this and causes us to sin, we must cut it off, tear it out. Better to be what some people might call physically imperfect than to be spiritually imperfect. Jesus uses this figurative and hyperbolic language not for us to take literally, but for us to take seriously. This being a disciple of Jesus is difficult stuff. Are we up to it? In the book of James, a book which is kind of a how-to manual for the early church, we're offered some practical help on this difficult road to discipleship. The author of James knows that it's tough, and throughout this letter, the author is realistic. He urges us to idealistic things, but his feet are firmly planted on the ground. He knows we will make mistakes and fail, just like the early church. The author urges us on to be patient. He reminds us of the Lord's mercy and compassion. Today we hear about our responsibilities to one another. We are given instructions for prayer and praise of God. We are told to anoint the sick and pray with them. We are reminded to confess our sins to one another, much like we do in our own liturgy, and to pray for one another, like we do in the prayers of the people. In the closing lines of his letter, we're shown the love and vitality of the way church is supposed to be. It's not just a once-a-week thing, and then we're off the hook, but it's a way of living. It's a transformed way of being. We become selfless so we can serve one another. We work together for the greater good. Being a follower of Jesus takes work. Like being a musician, I guess. It takes practice. We're going to try and fail. None of us are perfect. But that does not excuse us from trying again and again, and from taking Jesus seriously when he tells us to cut ourselves off from that stuff which causes us to sin, which causes us to not hear that heartbeat of God in our ears. My friends, the good news is that we have a loving, life-giving, and liberating God who allows us to try again and again, every day, every hour, every minute. Following Jesus may be tough. Platitudes and warm, fuzzy phrases which we see on Facebook or on plaques are not the reality. The author of the letter of James knew this. Jesus knew this. Let us take this difficult journey, this journey that gives us life. Let us die to selfishness and a myopic vision of the world. Let us be obsessed and passionate about Jesus. For after all, following Jesus, being one with God, our Creator, Redeemer, and Sustainer, is in our DNA.